Please give a warm welcome to our presenter this evening, Otto Haugland.
One morning, I got up and I ate breakfast. I was about to walk out the door, and I remembered that I had some blueberries that my parents had picked that were in my refrigerator. So before I left, I grabbed a handful, threw them in, and headed out the door. I lost one. I go, well, I don't have time. I'll deal with that later. I saw about 7 people that day, and it was about 4:45, and I walk into this office, and it's 2 dentists, and there are 7 people in the waiting area, all staff, and they're time clock watching. In the last 15 minutes of the day, they are just standing there, biding their time. And one of them says, the sales rep has lipstick on his collar. I was wearing a shirt similar to this. And they ran down the gal who said this, and the loudest, her name was Stacy. Stacy goes and gets the other staff, pulls them away from patients to come and look, and pulls me in front of a mirror, and using imagination, it could be imagined that it was lipstick. But I was trying to explain to no avail that this was blueberries. The next evening, I went out to a U-Pick place, and I picked the biggest bucket of blueberries I could find. And I also went to the Drug Emporium, and my goal was to buy 12 lipsticks. It was out of my comfort zone. First, I didn't imagine that they cost that much. My first thing is I bought one for Stacy. I decided the rest were lost. So I brought in, 2 days later, I brought in this big bowl of blueberries. And I had a lipstick with a bow on it. And I handed it to Stacy. Within a year, they were my largest customer. And when I left 7 years later, I realized they were 35% of my business. That example doesn't happen all the time. But I had other customers, and I didn't smear blueberries on my collar to get them. But in sales and in business, your goal is to bring in customers. And it's a big pool out there. And to give you an analogy, like a fisherman, how do they catch fish? I have an acronym. It's called NETS. N-E-T-S. And the N, I'm going to tell you a little story before. I am going into an office in Lakewood, Washington, and I go, hi, Carol, is Tom there? And Carol just starts laughing like uncontrollably. She goes, Otto, Ken's name is on the door. But I will let you see Tom, Dick, Harry, or Ken anytime you want to, because you are the only person that walks in here and knows my name. And my last name is the same as Ken's. We've been married for 22 years. My name is Carol Landry. As you can tell, this was 20 years ago. Some of you younger might not know who Tom Landry is, but I asked to see the Dallas Cowboy coach in a dental office. But Carol told me, she goes, you're the only one. And she goes, I have some of your competitors. I make them sit, but you can see him anytime you want to. So N stands with name. If you can remember names, it's really helpful in your business, your personal life, and everything you do. At first, I started thinking that, I've heard this thing, you've got to have association. Well, I know an Ashley. So when I meet Ashley, I'll remember. My cousin. I have 20 cousins. I'm trying to think which cousin it is. I'm going Luann, Betty. I'm going through this gymnastics, and it's really confidence. But one thing I've learned is there's an African proverb out there. I was at a writers' conference, and this guy said, we have a proverb in Africa, and it goes like this. I might not be much, but I'm all I think about. And it's really what we deal with in life. I remember what I said to Ashley. I don't remember what Ashley said to me. So I use what I call the VW principle. Verbalize it or write it down. And so my choice is always to ask people when I meet them, how do you spell your name? Yours is Ley, correct? And like Pat has unique spelling to hers also. Even with common names nowadays, I have to ask him, do you do it traditionally? I'm seeing Y's in Kim. I'm seeing silent H's. If you ask a Rhonda, do you spell that with an R or an H? I now remember her name. But I met this one Rhonda, and she said, I'm Rhonda without a Honda. I remember her name. I mean, our names are so unique. I found out last night that my name hit the peak in the United States of popularity in 1889. Okay? I mean, I love having a unique name, but it causes problems. I go into Supercuts, the one person writes it down, the next person comes up, sees it, and yells out, "Oh ho," every time. I mean, even one guy, I'd go, I told you it was Otto last time. Yeah, you told me 2 or 3 times, but it's oh ho. Another time, they walked right up to an Asian guy. Oh ho, and I stood up. And they look at me and they go, I thought you would be David. And I had to lie and say, no, I am oh ho. The last thing I wanted to do is have them working on David while I'm sulking there that I didn't speak up. But names are so important. For example, 4th of July, I brought this game for a group of friends of ours. It's called ladder golf. And you have to have pairs, and we were short on one, and this junior high kid was interested in joining it. But that brought the whole park. We had a lineup of about 12 kids wanting to play this game. None of their names resembled anything we have heard our whole life. There was shoe soccer. Two soccer was one kid's name. He said, well, my parents grew up in Fiji. But this one guy's name was Hassan. And I kept calling him every Muslim name known to man, but not Hassan. He's 6 years old, and he goes to the ground and writes his name upside down so I can read it in the grass. My name is Hassan. Names are so important that you have to verbalize it, or you have to write it down. And I would challenge all of you, when you go into a restaurant, ask their name. You would be shocked at your service. It will go up. Also, you're able to find them. If you need them, you go, where's Michelle? Sometimes it'll get, I mean, I do, sometimes they're incongruent. If you do something at work and you don't do it in personal, you're incongruent. So I start doing it in everything, and it saves me a lot of things. Another thing, I check into this hotel in San Jose, and I go, hi, Aziz, and he goes, hi, Otto. And he tells me, you know, you're the only one that knows my name. I only stop in quarterly. So I go in, and I had transferred thousands of dollars that morning to my credit card. But it hasn't hit my credit card yet. But it has come out of my checking account. My bill is $92, and I have $96 in my checking account. Aziz tells me, you people pay cash, you steal our towels. You steal our clock radios. You can't stay here. I go, well, I'm going to sleep in my car. I didn't know I had other options. He goes, but you know my name. But if you steal a towel, it comes out on me. And I don't make very much money. But you know my name. You can stay here. The other thing is the whole, when I meet people, what's the typical thing that we talk about with them? We ask them questions, what they do, are they married, do they have kids, where they live. There are minefields in all of those. And that's the other part of NET. I call it the rule of 18. When I meet somebody, I only ask them anything about things that happened before they're 18. And they start talking. Where'd you go to high school? How many siblings do you have? Are your parents still alive? And they will start to blossom. Because in sales, whoever talks most loses. So get them talking. And when they start at 18, they direct, and they talk and talk and talk. And there's an advantage to that, but sometimes we do this in friendships, and we realize they had fun. I know they're not going to be close friends. But we have to do the same. Whoever talks most loses. But start a conversation about something when they're young, and your conversation will blossom more than what do you do? Because you've just put them into a pinhole, and that's all they're going to talk about. Plus, it might be uncomfortable. And then for thank yous. Whenever I meet somebody, I now send them a postcard. Started this about 15 years ago. My business went crazy. You'll also have interesting things that happen with it. First group I sent this to, I came in about a month later, and they're all smirking. And Connie comes up to me and says, Otto, do you know what happened with your postcard? My husband started treating me better. I lost it in my car. Dear Connie, it was so great to see you again, Otto. It had more in there. But she said, you almost saved our marriage. But when you send these, sometimes I don't know if they work, but when I don't send them, I know they work. Because there is a different feeling when you come back into their room. One place in Northgate, they didn't make the connection. They're trying to figure out why they're getting postcards from Otto. They're looking for their patient pool. Where's Otto? There's nobody named Otto. And I came in, and they go, you're Otto, the phantom postcard guy. He's now a huge customer of mine. Also, one thing people talk about is how do you do this logistically? Postcards. They say you saw 10 people in one day. What I do, this is a guy I saw today. I sit down and I write out the boring stuff. I get it done. Like today, Christopher Bates. I know he goes by Chris, so I write that in. I also put a stamp on it. Right then. Now I'm financially vested. I've got to do it again. If 3 of these is a Hershey's candy bar. I mean, if I don't send them, I just lost it. The other thing is, sometimes it gets boring, so you set them there. So what I do is I collect them up, and I'll be on my way home from work, or I'll just head there. I do this at the post office. In the parking lot, I write these out. At home, I don't have a deadline, but at post office I do. They don't have bathrooms. I work my butt off at post office. Any of you have ever gotten one of these? You have to have this image of me type. Kidding. One problem I had is one time I was behind at a post office. It's April 14th or 15th. I'm in the way. So I go park behind in some other business. Keep my lights on. Battery goes dead. I call AAA. I tell them the story. I'm writing postcards at the post office. Do you have an address? No, post office is behind me. What's near you? I said, well, there's no address, but there's a casino here. And she can't stop laughing. Oh, right. You were writing postcards to a customer at a casino. Really? And then the last one is S of nets. And that's just smile. Smile every time you see somebody, because if you like yourself, more people will like you. If you're desperate, desperation works so well in relationships. It's going to work in business. Just smile. So our conclusion is, remember names, talk about things when they're young, send thank yous, and smile. And one final note. The Stacy from that original story, for the last 15 years, I've spent holidays with her and her husband. Thank you for your time.